We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we truly love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our ever-growing channel. Smash that like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. It's all about, yet again, the PAC 12, the meeting negotiations. We have determined at PATC, the Sportsbook at PTAC, we have dropped the odds down to the Pac-12, keeping their 10 schools, their total composition, their current composition. We have dropped those odds down from minus 110 to minus 103. What does that mean? It's almost a pick'em. It's that close to a pick'em. Later in the show, I'll tell you what we think we need to make it a pick'em or make it the favorite that the Pac-12 does not keep their composition. But right now it's minus 103. What does that mean in Vegas? You would have to win $100, you would have to bet $103 if you were betting for the Pac-12 survival of their composition right now. 103 to win 100, so it's almost a pick'em. Not quite there yet. Not quite there. Many in the chat room, many of you watching are probably saying, nah, Greg, you're wrong. You're wrong. Pac-12 is going to get poached. That should be the favorite in the PATC Sportsbook. Not quite. Not quite. Look, we have said this from the beginning. Pac-12 universities want to remain Pac-12 universities. You know the reason why. Big time, large research universities. They want to stay together. But man, on the other side, I think there is a situation where people are undervaluing the importance of the front porch of the university. And we're going to start out. This is what we do here. If you're new to the channel, I do a monologue. Then we open it up to the comments, and then we open up the phone lines. And the number is 763-260-1333. The lines are not open yet. I will open them up in due time. After I get down with the monologue, the floor is yours. You guys direct the show. But we got to start out with this. So you might ask, well, why are you dropping the odds? Let's begin. First, we're going to do... we're just going to do there's a 1 and 34 second clip of Andrew Machard and John Aron from Sports Business Journal. And we're going to go through that clip twice. A 1 and 34 second clip. After the first clip, I'm going to ask you to focus in on something. And then we're going to go through it again. You're going to listen to it again. And then I'm going to discuss it. And then, of course, you put down your comments in the comments section, and we'll get to your comments. And, of course, you can call the show and talk about anything you want to talk about in college football. Then we're going to get to the John Wilner mailbag. It wasn't behind a paywall. We're going to go through it section by section. There's some... I like John Wilner. He's a legend out in the West Coast. There's a few parts of that mailbag, a few answers. I don't quite think, well, I'll leave my comments until we go through that section. So let's start out with the Andrew Marchand, John Aron clip. A couple of things before we get to that. Greg Sankey, SEC Commissioner, talked with Kirk Bowles, the Austin American-Statesman sports columnist this afternoon. He said the SEC would decide on an 8 or 9 game conference schedule, and they'll decide who has who for their permanent rivals sometime in the next 90 days. Also, it's been reported that Andy Ludwig, the offensive coordinator of Utah, two-time offensive coordinator of Utah, was down in Notre Dame land this Friday afternoon interviewing with Marcus Freeman, the head coach. From Heather Dinich is saying that Andy Ludwig is now the number one candidate to become the new offensive coordinator for Notre Dame. And I happen to believe that's an upgrade from what Notre Dame would have before. And then, of course, then Utah, the Utes would have to search for a new offensive coordinator if that should happen. Again, and let's also get to, I'm very thankful, before we get to the clip, before we get to the monologue, once again, I am so thankful for the great sponsorship that we have with Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters. Welcome to Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters. We invite you to discover the Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters difference. Clean, hot air roasted coffee produces a smoother, richer, healthier coffee that is less bitter and less acidic. Our hot air roasted coffee uses convection heat to loft the beans for a very even heat transfer. The clean, bright taste that people rave about is achieved by roasting the bean quickly and evenly while suspended on a bed of hot air. The Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters difference, from craft to cup, hand-picked coffee beans. You're going to see a link in the description box below the video if you want to check it out. Hit that link, order the coffee. They have incredible selection. And if you want to support this program, an independently run college football program, no strings attached, chat room, no strings attached. If you want to support us, put it down, put it PATC in the comments section in where you order your coffee. Thank you so much to Coffee Crafters Blue Ridge for your sponsorship of today's show. Okay, now let's get to this, just a clip here. I'm going to play it twice. You might be annoyed by that, but I'm going to play it twice. There's a reason for it. I want you to listen up. The volume isn't all that great on it. Take a listen. This is Andrew Marchand and John Oran. That's John Oran right there you seeing in the video. Let's take a listen.
My who's down, I'm going to the Pac-12 and George Kliavkoff. There is a sports rights bubble, and the sports right bubble is going to burst. And it's not going to affect the haves. The NFL is still going to get paid. Obviously, they have deals going for the next 11 years. The NBA is sitting pretty. Hockey just got paid. The Pac-12 rights are up right now. And you can see with this Disney announcement and your who's up of Jimmy Pitaro, they're going to make hard decisions about what sports matter. Really, what are essential sports and what are not essential sports. And if you're ESPN, essential sports are the NFL, the NBA, the ACC, SEC, Big 12. Does the Pac-12 sneak in there? I'm beginning to think that there might be more problems than that.
Yeah, I don't think Amazon might do a deal for, I don't think they want the tonnage. I think they would want the number one game. And I definitely think they're not going to overpay for it. So if they go to Amazon, if they end up on streaming, you want to get paid if you end up on streaming exclusively, especially your top games. And I don't think that's going to happen. In Fox, we had Eric Shanks on the other day, and he basically told you that they do it if it's a really advantageous deal. But if not, they're not interested. So
yeah, you've been on that for a while, and it is true. Their deals are not tonnage deals. Their deals are about, Thursday Night Football, one package of the NFL. It's about getting Boxing Day games in the EPL. It's not about getting every single EPL game.
Okay, so we're going to go through this again. What I want you to focus on is the second part of it, where Andrew Marchand is talking about Amazon, what exactly they want and what they do not want. This is why, and again, if you don't know these two gentlemen, they're at the very top of the game when it comes to receiving information about media sports packages throughout all of sports in this country. People are leaking to them constantly. They have the info. I just want you to listen to this. Listen to the whole thing, of course. But the second gentleman on the right, Andrew Marchand, listen to what he says about what does Amazon want, and then we're gonna circle back. We'll talk about it. Listen to it one more time. Thanks.
My who's down, I'm going to the Pac-12 and George Kliavkoff. There is a sports rights bubble, and the sports right bubble is going to burst. And it's not going to affect the haves. The NFL is still going to get paid. Obviously, they have deals going for the next 11 years. The NBA is sitting pretty. Hockey just got paid. The Pac-12 rights are up right now. And you can see with this Disney announcement and your who's up of Jimmy Pitaro, they're going to make hard decisions about what sports matter. Really, what are essential sports and what are not essential sports. And if you're ESPN, essential sports are the NFL, the NBA, the ACC, SEC, Big 12. Does the Pac-12 sneak in there? I'm beginning to think that there might be more problems than that.
Yeah, I don't think Amazon might do a deal for, I don't think they want the tonnage. I think they would want the number one game. And I definitely think they're not going to overpay for it. So if they go to Amazon, if they end up on streaming, you want to get paid if you end up on streaming exclusively, especially your top games. And I don't think that's going to happen. In Fox, we had Eric Shanks on the other day, and he basically told you that they do it if it's a really advantageous deal. But if not, they're not interested. So
yeah, you've been on that for a while, and it is true. Their deals are not tonnage deals. Their deals are about, Thursday Night Football, one package of the NFL. It's about getting Boxing Day games in the EPL. It's not about getting every single EPL.
Okay, so Andrew Marchand, he's talking so confidently about this. He's broken so many stories. These guys have intel, and somebody must be speaking to him, representing Amazon and knowing what Amazon wants, because he has been saying this consistently. You can see it in his face. He's saying Amazon doesn't want a tonnage. They do not want the tonnage. So it isn't like, again, this reporting of SBJ is sort of conflicting with other people's reports. Okay? What Andrew Marchand is saying that Amazon doesn't want this tonnage. They're not looking, They're not the ones, according to Ann Mashan. These are not my words, SBJ words, which have a lot more credibility. Amazon's not looking for the tonnage. They're looking for the top game. Just like they do with everything else. As John Oran said, with their soccer, with, of course, NFL football. So when people are talking about speculating that the Pac-12 needs to expand because to fill up inventory, right? They're looking at SMU, San Diego State to fill up much needed added members for inventory, as Brett McMurphy broke the news and other people after him. Is it Amazon that's asking for that, or is it somebody else? See, according to SBJ, I think it's somebody else. Andrew Marchand saying Amazon's really looking for the top game, the tier 1 content. And by the way, they're not going to pay a lot for it. They're not going to overpay. So who is looking for the tonnage? Now, I know there's been other reports out in the West Coast that it is Amazon looking for the tonnage. So we have a confliction here, right? I've said in a couple live shows ago, our prediction at Peek Around the Corner is that ESPN Plus gets a lot of tonnage in this deal. They're going to end up just like what the Big 12 has with their third tier content, Olympic sports, non-revenue sports, creating sports. Big 12 has on ESPN Plus, Big 12 now, and basically they get paid by the ESPN Plus just enough to produce most of those games that get played on ESPN Plus. There's exceptions to that. I understand that, but most of the content you see is produced by the school and or conference and gets paid just enough to pay off those bills of production. And I think Pac-12 is going to end up with the same thing with their tonnage and ESPN Plus. However, I understand there's other reports out there. We've read them here on this show saying that it's Amazon who wants the tonnage. If Andrew Marchand is correct, that Amazon's not interested in the tonnage, they're looking for the top game, then who is looking for the tonnage? Who is it? Is it Apple TV? Is it ESPN? Are they just willing to grab all of that, put it on ESPN, and have a few top games and have Amazon have the rest? I asked you that question. I just want to bring that up. But I listened to this. I listened to Andrew Marchand. I see his face. These guys are elite. These guys at the top. These guys are hearing some stuff that's negative. John Oran has Who's Down. He has a Who's Down, Who Up segment. I would invite you to listen to the entire podcast. But he's got Who's Down, George Kliakoff. So things, you have this, and this was today, by the way. This was today. And then you have the Athletic article from yesterday. And then you have last night breaking news on Oklahoma and Texas. So put your comments down in the comments section. What do you think about Andrew Marchand and his discussion in regards to all of that? And now let's get to the John Wilner mailbag. Now, maybe we'll see some positivity out of this mailbag that was dropped this afternoon. This is a mailbag. This is the first question from Cargo Man 0363. I'm trying to wrap my head around SMU joining the Pac-12. I get San Diego State in terms of the Southern California footprint, and the Aztecs have been competitive in football and basketball. But SMU, overall, not so much. And they have only a sliver of the Dallas market. Can you talk me down on this? He's asking John Wilner. That sentiment is completely understandable, and all things being equal, the Mustangs would not have been the Hotline's first choice for Pac-12 expansion. Houston was atop our list, but the conference must navigate the landscape as it exists and the Mustangs, in several respects, are the best available option for growing the footprint. In fact, we view adding SMU as a member in a similar fashion to adding Amazon as a media partner, and I've got to stop right there. In fact, we view adding SMU as a member in similar fashion to adding Amazon as a media partner. Neither entity can be judged on its merits as of today, but must be evaluated for what they could be in the future. I understand what John Wilner is trying to illustrate. It isn't apples and oranges, but it's more like Godzilla versus a lizard when it comes to the comparison. It's okay. I mean, I understand the SMU, a penny stock that can grow. I get it. I'm for it. I favor it. But to compare SMU to hopefully you betting on their future, what they're going to be in 2 or 3 years from now, and John Wilner gets back to that later in this mailbag. But Amazon, man, you have to hope that Amazon is on the come much faster than SMU, because Amazon, the ability to give visibility to your Pac-12 schools, that's what Oregon and Washington are worried about. They're not worried about SMU. They know what they're getting with SMU. They know it. They understand it. Everybody understands it. San Diego State and SMU. What they're really worried about is Amazon. Can it get on the come faster than projections? That's what they're worried about. Okay, going next part of that mailbag. John Wilner continues. The Pac-12's next media contract cycles begins in the summer of 2024. And depending on the length of the deal, should last until the end of the decade or early in the 2030s. Let's envision a 7-year deal, because odd numbers create easy midpoints. The 2027 football season would be halfway through the agreement, 3 years down, 3 years remaining. The Pac-12 isn't assessing the viability of Amazon as a means of a content distribution based on the Prime Video's market position today. It's evaluating Amazon for what the partnership would provide midway through the next cycle. Wow. I mean, it's true, but okay, I'll continue on. Will streaming be more widely acceptable in the sports media realm in the 2027-28 than it is now? Probably. Would technology evolve to the point that viewers do not need to close the app in order to channel surf? Maybe. Our advice is to assess SMU in the same way. Will the Mustangs have a stronger football brand late in the decade than they do now? Look, I understand what Wilner's doing here, but man, the risk rewards on SMU is a drop in the Atlantic Ocean compared to the risk and reward of Amazon. I would not be comparing those two situations at all. In a 7-year deal, can you afford those first 3 or 4 years to have a drop, a continuous drop in eyeballs on your product if you're in Oregon and Washington or any other Pac-12 schools, but especially in Oregon and Washington? Can you be patient enough for Amazon to get there in 3 or 4 years for the American public to consume their live sports content differently? Can you afford to wait 3 or 4 years to see how it ends up? Back to the article. Again, put all your comments down in the comments section. I'm going to get to it as fast as I can. It makes zero sense to me that ESPN is more interested in the Big 12, fronted by Oklahoma State, Baylor, and BYU, than the Pac-12 is with Washington, Oregon, and Utah. Make it make sense, Casterman. Ask John Wilner. Wilner answers, I have no reason to believe ESPN is materially more interested in the Big 12. Because the conferences deploy different negotiation strategies, conclusions are difficult to draw. ESPN was willing to renew its existing agreement with the Big 12 at a below market valuation that worked for ESPN. I got to stop again. Why is it a below market valuation for the Big 12? Why is that so certain? This is what I don't understand. I don't get it. Was anybody sitting around saying, geez, Big 12 lost Oklahoma and Texas. They're bringing in 4 G5 schools. If you might consider BYU Power 5, but whatever. You know what I'm saying. Oh, and they're going to make $31.6 million a year in just media money alone. And they're going to be making $50 million when you throw in basketball credits and playoffs and bowl money and all that stuff. Was anybody predicting that? I wasn't. I sure wasn't seeing that being predicted anywhere else. And then when you talk about valuation, you have to talk about the incredible exposure that the Big 12 gets and give credit to Wilner. He talks about it later in this mailbag. What is this thing about Big 12 buying their home at such a lower price in the neighborhood that's affecting the Pac-12s being able to sell their home? Or however you want to put it. I think that misses the mark. Tell me I'm wrong in the comments section. You guys know I love that you guys tell me that I'm wrong. But that's how we see it here at Peek Around the Corner. We'll continue with the mailbag. The network very well might have done the same with the Pac-12. Well, they did. I'll get to that in a second. But instead of renewing its deal, the Pac-12 opted to take its inventory to the open market and explore new partners. And again, they did that. And this is the market. So maybe the Pac-12, instead of the Big 12, maybe undervaluing their own value, right? Doing a deal with the Fox Sports and ESPN that undercut their own value. Maybe that's not true. Maybe the Pac-12 has been overvaluing their own value. The reality is that each conference will occupy second-tier status with ESPN. I don't know if that's true. Really, the second-tier status in ESPN is ACC. Big 12 has third status with ESPN, but they have second status in Fox Sports. I'm not sure where the Pac-12 is going to rank with ESPN. I don't consider that they're going to get second-tier status. We'll continue. Which will be an all-in with ESPN. ESPN will be all in with SEC starting in 2024. To the point that we will see SEC doubleheaders on ABC and ESPN in prime viewing hours, with 30 minutes carved out for home videos of the Smart Family Reunion. We'll get to the next question. Is the Disney corporate restructuring announced yesterday possibly related to a Pac-12 media delay? I cannot state definitely either way. This is Wilner answering that question. But my sense is the corporate level event in November, with the disappointing earnings, with Iger's return as chief executive, played a role in the trajectory of the negotiations. So perhaps did the layoffs announced by Amazon in late 2022. And if true, that's hardly surprising. Economic factors can impact media negotiations and are one of the many risk factors that underscore the need of urgency in the process. But that's only a hunch, and I don't expect to ever have clarity on that piece of the puzzle. What are the chances the Pac-12 adds any teams in 2024? As of today, everyone keeps talking about San Diego State and SMU, but I don't see this group of presidents adding those schools without a compelling financial case from Commissioner George Kliakoff, from Bear Flag Fan. Are you confident votes are there for San Diego State and SMU? Wilner answers, any membership request would require a 3/4 vote of the existing schools, at least 8 presidents, 8 Pac-12 presidents, 8 of the 10 would have to approve. Fortunately, the hotline has recent experience in counting votes, having tracked the UC Regents' month-long deliberations on UCLA. Although the Pac-12 presidents have a history of misguided decisions, we're confident that the Aztecs and Mustangs would have the votes if the schools stick together and determine expansion is the proper course. They would have the votes if the schools stick together and determine expansion in a proper... Okay. From the outset of this saga, this is Wilner continue. The hotline has believed new members were needed. So did we at Peek Around the Corner. Partly as a defensive play, keeping the Big 12 out of San Diego. Partly as a means of growing the footprint. The Dallas media and recruiting markets. We agree at Peek Around the Corner. And mostly because of the need for game inventory. As a 10-team conference, the Pac-12 would have approximately 65 home football games available to its media partners each season. As a 12-team league with approximately 78, that's a significant difference when each game carries a multi-million-dollar price tag. When do you think officials' invites will be sent out if the Pac-12 expands? I'm assuming the presidents will meet and vote on this first. Lickamac 5 ask, by the middle of March, and that's the title of our episode tonight, by the middle of March. By the middle of March. So many things can go wrong in the next month. By the middle of March, we should have a sense for whether the schools will sign a media rights deal and whether the conference will expand. We should have a sense for whether the schools will sign a media rights deal. This is where the John Wilner 33% chance of Pac-12 extinction comes in. You can see it. This matches up with Andrew Marchand, John Aron in The Athletic. And it could unfold more rapidly. If the media rights piece drags deep into the spring, trouble could follow, big trouble. At some point, the schools could lose faith in Kliakoff's ability to meet the moment. At some point. I think this is the last question. Would Tulane, Rice, or other Central Time Zone schools be considered by the Pac-12 if the conference goes to 14 teams? Will it go to 14? This is asked by PJ Kiernan to John Wilner. Wilner, I'm deeply skeptical about a 14-team league. We agree at Peek Around the Corner, but there's no reason we can't venture down the hypothetical lane. The primary reason to grow beyond 12 is inventory. More schools mean more games, which create more programming, which could potentially lead to better media contract, but only if Amazon and ESPN are pushing for quantity to satisfy the streaming needs. And we just heard Andrew Marchand. That's why we led it in this program here tonight on February 10th. Because he's basically telling you all, Amazon doesn't want the tonnage. And ESPN's going to take most of it and put it in ESPN Plus. And you see John Wilner's asking that. The primary reason to grow beyond 12, even to grow to 12, is to create more programming, lead to maybe a better media contract, but only if Amazon and ESPN are pushing for quantity to satisfy the streaming needs. Again, Andrew Marchand doesn't think that's happening. Back to John Wilner. And in that situation, yes, Rice and Tulane would make the most sense because, one, they provide access to new markets. Two, they easily clear the bar academically. And three, they would create more central time kickoffs. But in the real world, the Pac-14 is extremely unlikely. And I agree. And I would say those wouldn't be my 13 and 14 to Peek Around the Corner. If it went there, and I don't think it's going to go there. We've been saying that for a while, forever. I don't think it would be Rice and Tulane. We would say it would be Fresno State and Tulane. Because of for lots of reasons we don't have time to go into tonight. But you know what? When these conferences expand, they like to couple up teams together. There's a natural coupling up of a Fresno State just south of Stanford and California, Fresno State, all the way down to San Diego State, and then a coupling of Tulane and SMU. I don't see that natural coupling. I think overall Rice is too small of an athletic department. Incredible university, baseball program, we get it. But I think Fresno State is the clear favorite over Rice, and Tulane is a good play as well. But I don't think it's going to go there anyways. Your best guess for conference affiliation for the following schools in 2024 and 2030. Washington, Arizona State, and Washington State. This is the last one here. The Hotline published our vision of the future in the Pac-12, the college football at large in September. And despite all the events over the past 5 months, the outlook remains generally the same. The Washington schools likely will remain in the Pac-12 through the decade. Granted, nothing is guaranteed until contracts are signed, but tumult is coming to the sport in the early 2030s when the Big Ten media cycle begins. We generally agree with that. However, we're not going to fully back that position. So, we're going to get to your comments as fast as we possibly can. Then we're going to open up the phone lines. After reading John Wilner, after listening to Andrew Michon and John Uran, after reading everything that came out last night, Peek Around the Corner has the Pac-12 ability to keep their 10 schools and hopefully expand because they really need to. We're minus 103. Barely the favorite. Just slightly the favorite. So put down your thoughts. Give us a call when we open up the phone lines. What do I need? What do I need to hear to finally say the Pac-12 keeping their 10 schools together is not minus 103 anymore. It's plus 110, plus 125 at the PATC Sportsbook. What I need to hear is somebody leaking something. Like we got that leak in the Athletic article. I need someone to leak something, or we get intel, or something to the effect of, it's just too high a risk to put most of our content on a digital platform at this time. And although I think we all kind of know, we definitely all know that that's the risk that Oregon and Washington and everyone's saying, oh my goodness, I need to hear that. I need to hear that leak come out. And when that happens, if that happens, then that sportsbook, PATC Sportsbook, our imaginary sportsbook, the odds are going to flip real fast. Okay, let's get to your comments. I hope you enjoyed the monologue. Will do. Thank you. Here's to the best college football show available, PATC. Thanks for working overtime last night, Greg. It was my pleasure. Thanks again for your super chat, your generosity, Will Doot. Thank you so very much. I hope you're okay with Ludwig possibly becoming the Notre Dame's new offensive coordinator. That news just broke. And then, of course, we got to show this before we get to the comments. You guys, this PATC community that we have built, you guys think I'm nuts? Take a look at this. You guys have way too much time on your hands. I think all of you need an intervention. What is this? This is from Will Doot. Cloak and dagger. Cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger. Yes. Take a drink. Look at that. What's going on? And this is from Civil War Ghost. Twitter. Civil War Ghost. And Civil War Ghost, I know you have some other art out there, some other shots. This is the only one I had time to get to. Video game, cartridge, Atari. I'm old enough. I did play these games. Atari. So, Cloak and Dagger. You guys are crazy. And this is from Monavision, Mr. Buckeye. Cloak and Dagger with your host, Greg the Coolie Flugar. Look at this. A Buckeye, a Husky, Big Ten. That's, I don't know who that is. And then this good-looking guy, I guess that's me. So you guys, the official drinking game, college football, peek around the corner. You guys are absolutely nuts. But I appreciate the creativity. If you guys want to keep sending those in, I will try to post them on our show. You guys, this community, it's special, and you guys are also nuts. So let's make sure we all know that. Okay, thank you for all those pictures. Thank you for the donation, Will Do. Thank you for that Photoshop picture. I appreciate you guys. Let's get to the comments. I've wasted all of you guys' time. Here we go. Man, there's so many comments, I can't even get to it. Jay Piermutter, I won't say the word because I don't want to get everybody like Motivision. I have a keg delivered. K-Do, good evening, folks. Jared Jones, we are live. We are live. Fighting Illini Ted, PATC live on the weekend. Our livers are in trouble. We'll see. We'll see what happens on the ground affects what we do in the air here at Peek Around the Corner. We'll see what's going on. If we need to go live, we will go live. Rebecca, no Pac-12 expansion without some teams. She's playing off Motivision's tagline. Motivision, no future expansion. Big Ten without Notre Dame unless there's a strong sympathy vote. Daniel Monacasso, I need a Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters mug. That's our sponsor for tonight's show, Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters. Give it a shot. Give it a shot. There's a link in the description box below the video. Rebecca, also the Forbes article about the Pac-12 was right along the lines of what Wilderness said as well. I saw, Rebecca, that you sent that to me in a DM. I haven't had a chance to take a look at it. I also saw that you sent me that Division III football song that I got to sing. I haven't had a chance to look at that. I will perform it as best as I possibly can, and I'm sure I'm going to cause a lot of damage. Bob Husley, thank you for the super chat donation. I appreciate you, good sir. After last night, you convinced me to subscribe and donate. Thanks, Greg. Job well done. My guess, Big 12 will wind up with Arizona, Arizona State, and University of Southern Florida, and one more Western team. What the University of Southern Florida has to do, they got to get an on-campus football stadium. They got to get that done. You saw what's happened. You saw how it helped the San Diego State Aztec football program and that whole athletic department. Heck, you saw what the good that it did for Old Dominion in a smaller scale, but it did them some good. Programs like USF are held back because of their stadium, their facility issues. Same thing with the University of Buffalo at a lower scale. That football stadium, it's dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. So, USF, it's not going to be in the cards this time, Bob. They have to get an on-campus stadium. But thank you for the donation. I appreciate it, good sir. Thank you for subscribing to our channel. Thank you so very much. For those who are new to the channel tonight, subscribe because you get notified of our upcoming shows. Follow us at Flug Empire because we give everyone's a heads up on what's going to happen during the day, night, weekend. So do that as well. And smash that like button if you like our content. Okay, here we go. Back to the comments. I'm gonna open the phone lines as soon as I somewhat catch up with all your great comments. Rebecca says the Big 12 wants Washington, Oregon, Stanford, and California over the four corners for money. Would Stanford and California have any interest in joining the Big 12? I think that's a large, very large hurdle to overcome. Very large. Very large. if it got down to that point. Daniel Montecastle, ESPN is trying to cleave off the most valuable pieces. They'll find out that there's a lot of value downstream of the P5. It's not NBA or MLB level, but it's still better than soccer. RW, can someone explain to me why getting a home game in 2024 rather than 2025 benefits Fox? It's just that, you know, the home game at Michigan in 2024 is something that Fox, if the game is at Michigan, that means Big Ten owns it. That means Fox can have it. And that is something Fox could not, that helps them fill in the hole, right? It helps them make them whole in this deal with Oklahoma and Texas leaving early. By 2027, when it flips, I think it's still scheduled to flip, right? So it flips to Michigan in 2024, 2027 it goes to Texas. Maybe Fox can figure out some other stuff to make more money. That's, again, I don't think it's I think it might help just a hair, RW, but that's a great question. Rebecca says Fox will air it now. Fresno State alum, nice to see you in the house. Appreciate it. I'm hoping at least one Pac-12 school goes to the Big 12. So that opens the spot for Fresno and the PAC, or better if San Diego State and SMU commit, and only ASU wants in the Big 12. Fresno could partner with them. Again, I have this question here, peek around the corner. Thanks for that comment, Fresno State alum. Again, I have a question. And we're going to ask this question every single live show until we see something different. Has anybody from Arizona State in the leadership position, Arizona State, the athletic director, Anderson, the president, has anybody said any rah-rah Pac-12 stuff today? Because they didn't say it yesterday. They haven't said anything the day before that, the day before that, the week before that, the month before that. So let me know. Maybe I missed it. Put it down in the chat. Send me a tweet. Was there any rah-rah Arizona communication going on in the last 24 hours that I missed? Okay, let's open up that phone lines. Again, I'll get to as many comments as possible. If you want me to get to a comment quickly as possible, just add a little, hit that $, add a little donation, help us keep the lights on here at Peek Around the Corner. But we need to open up the phone lines, because I know there is a lot of people that have a lot of things they want to get off their chest. And I also want to say this, for whatever reason, that first phone call that comes in, I have a hard time picking it up. Like, I can't quite pick it up. So be patient. Be patient. And if we don't get you, please call back. That first phone call, I don't know. We're having a little technical difficulties here at Peek Around the Corner Studios. So give us a call. 763-260-1333. Put that number in your phone. That's PATC. Put PATC in your phone. Tony, go for Tony, says Big 12 is going after the Four Corners schools. I saw it on the internet, so it must be true. Are people taking shots at Oregon? I'm sure they are, because there's Pac-12 people in the chat. Yes, Oregon. Oregon is a big brand. They're a brand multiplier. We've talked about it. Peek Around the Corner. Skull Ducky, nice to see you in the house. Oregon averages 2.3 million viewers per game. Look, Oregon is a big brand. They have value. Washington has great value. People can pick apart the numbers of how many millions watched per game. Something that goes up and down depending on what exposure you get, right? What window you get, and what channel, what network you get. And then, of course, it depends on how good a season you're having. But overall, Oregon, when it comes to Pac-12 schools, Oregon gets the eyeballs. And we know the value of Washington. Those two are head and above everybody else in the Pac-12. I would argue that Utah is a little bit undervalued for most people. Arizona State as well. But head and shoulders above anyone else is Oregon and Washington when it comes to athletic brand and value. And of course, we know the value of Stanford and California when it comes to academic and research, without a doubt. And of course, Washington as well. They incredible research. I think they're fourth in the country in expenditures. 2021, I think that's the last year that's been recorded and published. But I get it. Pac-12 fans are going to go at it in the chat room. Adam Vulture, nice to see you. Appreciate you coming in. Arizona State, Arizona, and your mark will take a shot at Oregon and Washington on a short-term grant of rights deal that allows them an out when and if the Big Ten expands. That's an interesting take. I highly doubt that the other Big 12 schools would allow that.
Call from
Jason.
I didn't get the name.
Jason.
Jason, you have the floor. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, no problem. So all of us keep talking about expansion, what's logical, and we're all looking at it from the sports angle because we know it well, right? But
Yep.
I haven't heard anything from some of the presidents because ultimately all of this is ultimately up to them, right? And they look at it from a completely different lens, right? They're academics first and foremost.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what news is coming out from the actual presidents, if any?
There isn't any. There isn't any news, but you're absolutely right. They look at it from the lens of academic research. They hardly ever in the history of what we would call realignment does a school go from a higher academic conference, athletic conference, to a lower to another conference that's lower in academics, in academic standing. That's the only reason why we still consider it the favorite that the Pac-12 will hold together. But you're absolutely right. The presidents look at it from a different lens than the rest of us.
Yeah, they've made these decisions in the past that make us scratch their heads. So obviously they're taking advice from their ADs or some other source because sometimes we see their decisions and we just cannot understand how they got there.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, if George Kliavkoff is visiting SMU, for example, and he's watching a basketball game in public, I would have to think, Jason, that Stanford knew about this, right? That California knew about this. Years ago, Stanford and California wouldn't even allow Oklahoma to join the Pac-12 without Texas. And now here we are 12 years later about that. And they must have given some okay, some approval, some wink and a nod. The Stanford president and California Berkeley to have George Kliavkoff somewhat at least pursue San Diego State and SMU. So that is a sea change in Pac-12. That's the reality of where they are today. So that gives us a glimpse into what the presidents are thinking, correct?
Yeah.
So there's a change, but none of them are really communicating. And that's not unusual, except Jason, in the history of this stuff, when you're coming up to your media deal, there's people throwing out all rainbows and bunny talk. Yeah, right? It's all positive. Oh, this is going to work. Oh, we're ready. This is going to help our athletic department. You get all this stuff a couple months before you and I even hear about the deal being signed, sealed, delivered, and announced. But we're not hearing any of that. We're hearing the opposite. And it's a scary situation.
Right. So go back earlier. Do you think, like Big Ten, for example, gave full autonomy to Kevin Warren when he was working on all this stuff behind the deal? Or were they heavily involved? Do we know?
The presidents, they didn't give him full autonomy. They didn't get him full autonomy. No, they didn't. Absolutely not. And George, I mean, Kevin Warren did the grunt work, right? He did the work. USC called Kevin Warren alone. UCLA called Kevin Warren alone. He let the presidents know, got the athletic directors together, figured out quickly. They all supported this. It was a pretty quick. He didn't have to build consensus. And then he went out on his skis and he wanted to target Oregon and Washington, as we reported right away at Peek Around the Corner. But he never built the consensus, the vote. He never built the argument for that to happen internally in the Big Ten. Kevin Warren did not get full autonomy, and neither is George Kliavkoff in reality.
So if you say that, that's almost scary, because it sounds like the current Pac-12 presidents don't have a high grasp of the sports world right now, what's happening and what's going on.
The Pac-12 presidents gave Larry Scott full autonomy. He had more autonomy than any other commissioner in modern sports, right? They gave him. They didn't even look at the budgets. Larry Scott and his commissioner office kept telling the presidents, you don't have to look at the books. He had more autonomy than anybody else, and look what happened. So Pac-12 presidents are not, although these are new Pac-12 presidents, all of them are new except for a couple, or one of them, Arizona State. When you say full autonomy, I'm like George Kliavkoff is doing the bidding and the selling, trying to sell to the media partners. But he's not. When he comes back, he has to make the argument. He has to win the debate that this is the best offer we can get. This is going to help your universities, your front porch of your universities. And according to the an athletic director says we haven't seen anything that's any good. That's why there's not a deal. So I don't think he has full autonomy. I'm pretty sure he doesn't.
All right. Well, thanks for the time.
Thanks for the phone call. I appreciate it, sir.
Bye.
Bye. Outstanding. Thank you for that excellent phone call, Jason. More phone calls, 763-260-1333. That's the number. Peek around the corner. Give us a call. Get back to your comments. T-Duck, Oregon Duck fan, T-Duck, shooting some heat. Giving San Diego State Aztecs a shot. San Diego State is a joke, academics. No PhDs. Tier 2 research. They're not Tier 1 yet. No medical law, vet school, nothing. So I think if I'm reading this right, T-Duck is voting no on San Diego State expansion. Tony, is Utah losing their OC to Notre Dame? It sure looks like it. And I think that's an upgrade for Notre Dame.
Call from
Day Old Donuts.
Day Old Donuts is in the house. The floor is yours, sir.
Oh, I just had something real quick that I just noticed in the last few weeks. I don't know if you remember, but leading up to the whole conference, thing going during the summer with the Pac-12 and everything, there was hit piece after hit piece from the Pac-12 media guys like Cansano and Wilner. They were, a couple of them actually got together and they did just got together and just did bashing on how stupid they said the numbers were. They shouldn't even be comparable to the Pac-12, and the Big 12 shouldn't have this. Well, all I gotta say is that stuff is all dried up. It's not. They're not hammering as much on that anymore. The narrative seems to have changed.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know if you noticed that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The script has been flipped on that. Yep.
Yeah, they were. It's all of a sudden seems like they're just more on the defensive now. These media guys, all of a sudden, because they would just, they'd throw out hit piece after hit piece, and Big 12 this, Big 12 that, and the interesting part is they weren't attacking the Big 10, who's the guys that took their big schools. They were attacking the Big 12. And I thought it was kind of interesting.
Yeah,
but
I did witness that kind of media back and forth between Big 12 media and Pac-12 media. Of course, I stayed out of it. Yeah, and of course, both sides were making good points at the time. I think what the Pac-12 media completely missed, and we said it, we put a live show, we put episode after episode on it. And when George Kliavkoff moved up that schedule, when he was able to get to where he could negotiate in an exclusive window with Fox Sports and ESPN at the time that the Pac-12 was, because Big 12 wasn't supposed to do it for 18 months. Boy, that was a big hint to what was about to happen. I mean, because the Pac-12 and ESPN and Fox Sports, they didn't have to say yes. They could have said no. They could have said, and then when they negotiated, and Yormark is saying all positive stuff, we could get a deal done in 2 or 3 weeks. There was some mocking out in the West Coast. They were saying, Yormark, he sells, he's always selling. My gosh, that guy is always selling. Well, that's what a commissioner is supposed to do. He's supposed to sell the vision of his conference and the betterment for his institutions in that conference. He's supposed to sell his conference continuously, not just the media companies, but the potential sponsorships and everything else. And I don't think, on the flip side of that, I don't think George Kliavkoff has done a good job of selling himself to his own conference. Same issue that Kevin Warren had. Different story, but same issue. And I think, look, if you take the Athletic article and if you take that as gospel, and I'm going to go ahead and do that because of those 4 writers and their credibility and how many sources they had. If you read that article again, if you go back to our live show, I could post these up again. Some of that trust is broken between Kliavkoff and people in the Pac-12.
Oh, I believe that. I believe that.
Yep. All right.
Well, that's all I had. I just,
okay.
That was on my mind. I just noticed a big change in their attitude.
Yeah. Thanks for the phone call, sir. I appreciate it. Call again.
Of course. Talk to you later. Thank you.
Well, okay, gonna have to remove that one. Watch your language, guys. Watch your language in the chat. Okay. I'm going to have to hide a user. Watch your language. I had to hide hot and sour 100.
Call from
Rebecca, go Huskies.
Rebecca, go Huskies. Nice for you to call. The floor is yours, Rebecca. What's on your mind?
Well, it's so crazy like that. Kliakoff is looking at adding San Diego State and SMU. San Diego State, I can totally understand. SMU, I'm for it because it just gets us in Dallas, puts you in Texas, and it's like people say, well, nobody's going to watch you in Texas. That's not the point. The point is we're in Texas, and you can tell a kid, hey, we play in Texas too.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Like the biggest thing, what people don't understand is the Pacific Northwest, Oregon and Washington. We're out here on an island essentially.
Yeah.
With if Washington State and Oregon State didn't have schools, didn't have actual football programs, we would be on a complete island all the time because we're 600-700 miles away no matter what from the next Power 5 program in the Bay Area. So I understand it. The issue is the biggest thing that people have talked about is that distance from Seattle to Dallas because it's something like 2,000 miles roughly, which just seems insane when you think about it. But, Tucson is 1,800 miles away from Seattle.
Yeah.
But what has been getting to me, though, and a lot of us are saying this in Pac-12 country, is if we're getting money, we found a partner, and, everybody understands the nature of the beast. There's not a lot of time slots left. You have to take what you can get.
Yep.
This is what happens when you decide to go to the open market. Had they just stayed, they probably would have gotten the Big 12 deal.
Yep.
And the Big 12 would be in this spot, right?
Yep. I agree with you, Rebecca. I think Yormark knew that. He saw the writing on the wall, and he had ESPN and Fox really said thanks, but no thanks. Pac-12 would have anything they wanted right now. And then, next year or the year after or whatever, Yormark would be like, I don't know what we're going to do. I think Yormark would have always gotten some of the Fox Sports piece to it, but the ESPN stuff, Pac-12 could have gotten Big 12's ESPN deal. Absolutely. But go on.
Yeah. I don't think Fox. I think for Fox they were just like, no, we don't want the Pac-12 anymore.
Didn't need it. Yeah.
There's a lot of hassle. A lot of people know this, but there's been a lot of issues between the Pac-12 and Fox Sports in the last few years. This year specifically, people. I don't know if people have noticed it, but people out west here, we all noticed this. Even UCLA fans, USC fans, everybody has noticed this. The announcers aren't in the arenas half the time. And Fox got called out for that.
Yeah.
And now when Fox broadcasts the game, they will physically be in the arena. But the Pac, it just took savvy fans going, I'm not going to watch, why do I need to watch it if you're not there?
Yeah.
It was a poor quality. And I don't know what Fox was doing with that. That was just poor quality on their part. But it's little things like that have added up over the years where, even Pac-12 fans were like, why do we continuously work with Fox? And I think on Fox's side, they were saying the same thing.
Yeah. They're all, especially once UCLA and USC got in the Big Ten boat, Fox Sports' interest in Pac-12 sports it isn't there because they don't really have the incentive to do a deal. Like John Oron and Andrew Marchand said, Fox would do a deal, but it has to be very Fox friendly. They just have no reason. And also you got to remember that Fox Sports has Mountain West content, very cheap. So, they have UCLA, USC 2024. They have the city of Los Angeles. They have some Mountain West to fill in some spots. So they're not really don't have a lot of economics incentive to go forward with.
Yeah, exactly. And for Fox, I think for them, they're like, well, we're okay with getting our butt kicked by ESPN in that 7:30 time slot.
Mm-hmm.
For whatever reason, they're like, it's okay on us, because like you said, they don't have a ton of cash to splurge. I mean, people the deals that they have made over the past few years. I think once they got that Big Ten deal, they were pretty much like, no. Yeah. The NFL deal, I think they're basically going broke on. It feels like most of these networks are going broke on the NFL deal because it's so massive.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to the Big 12, and like I said, everybody's been talking about the four corners, but at this point, Yormark needs to get money. I can't see him going, well, hey, ESPN, Fox, I got the four corners, can you guys give us some more cash? And I don't see them getting more than maybe $2 or $3 million per school, when Fox and ESPN can put in the ear of a Washington and an Oregon. They probably could go do it to Stanford and Cal, but I think Stanford and Cal, I would love to see the Stanford band in Big 12 country just once.
Yeah.
We'd all love to see that.
Yeah.
I would love to see Stanford band and SEC. It would get wild very quickly.
When I read the Athletic article that came out yesterday afternoon, and part of that article was Oregon and Washington price targets for Yormark. When they we all kind of know that. We know that. Washington and Oregon are the top dominoes. But when the Athletic put it in there, there's a reason they put it in there in that article. And you can see the validity of that article. I mean, you can see since that article has been put out, what has other people put out since then. So I think there's a lot of truth to that article. And if you missed it, go to our live show last night. We went through it piece by piece. I could go do that as well tonight. But what I want to say is, so with realignment, we go through the rules of realignment, right? Number one, realignment never sleeps. Number two, the school calls the conference first, always. And number three, there's a domino effect to realignment. What I would say right here at Peak Around the Corner, people are talking about the four corner schools, the four corner schools, the four corner schools. There has been three athletic directors recently who have done a rah-rah type of interview or speech. They've communicated rah-rah Pac-12 stuff. That's good. That's fine. There's nothing against rah-rah. I'm not saying that it's a negative. I'm just trying to categorize it very easily, quickly, right? They're positive comments about the Pac-12. We haven't heard anything from Arizona State. But but you know what? At the end of the day, if Brett Yormark has received a call at any time during this whole saga, if he's received a call, someone representing Oregon and Washington's interest, what Brett Yormark is going to do, and this is the rule of realignment, he's going to be able to call back. He's going to be able to keep calling back. He can't call them until they called him first. He's going to call them.
Yep.
And Brett Yormark is going to make sure that he gets a no first from Oregon and Washington. A solid, no equivocations, a no first from the top of the domino, which is Oregon and Washington, before he gets a no or yes from the other potential candidates that he deems valuable enough to even venture forward with. But Oregon and Washington are the top dominoes. And because that article came out, I'm sorry, Rebecca, I'm taking your time. You can have more time. Because on February 9th, when that Athletic article came out, February 9th, and it said, Brett Yormark sees Oregon and Washington as a prize target. my mind automatically flashed, again, complete speculation, no intel on this at all. No intel on this at all from Peek Around the Corner. Please, for those who'd like to twist my words, no intel at all. But in my mind, it flashed, boy, did Oregon and Washington give Brett Yormark a call in the last 30, 60 days, especially in the last couple weeks? Did somebody representing those two universities give Brett Yormark a call to open that door of discovery, to let each other look at each other's books for Brett Yormark? Because the word prize, targets, I'm very suspicious. Okay, go ahead, Rebecca. Sorry for my rant.
I'm with you. It's that phrase, targets.
Yep.
Tells me that either Yormark has looked at it and said, "Ooh, I would rather have them," or three things occurred. Like you said, somebody reached out from the two schools. Yormark just did an evaluation and was thinking, like, well, we could just, how can we land these two schools? Or ESPN and Fox got in his ear and said, we'll give you more money, but you need to grab these two. And at that point, I would assume ESPN and Fox would be in the ear of the president and the athletic directors at Washington and Oregon doing the same thing. And I think, and that, again, that took a little bit of time even for USC and UCLA. It's not like an overnight thing, like, oh, they called last night and today they're going to call. That doesn't work that way, obviously. But I will leave you with this. I will leave you with this, though. The big thing is that Wilner has not acknowledged that athletic article.
Who?
And I don't know if anybody else is John Wilner has yet to acknowledge the athletic article from the 9th. He has not talked about it. People have asked him about it. It is a blank thing. He has said nothing in regards to it. But yet he's put out now 2 articles that are very positive and counterpoint the athletics article. So the truth is in the middle there.
Yeah.
But I mean, when there's Stuart Mandel, he's a great reporter. He is. Yeah. Like, if he's reporting it, it's him and McMurphy. If they report it, it's happening.
Yes, and Nicole Arbach, she was in on that.
Yeah. Like when a Big Ten reporter is telling you this is what's happening.
Yeah.
I have a feeling like it's happening. So she's hearing stuff from the two new Big Ten schools. So, yeah. But I'll leave you with that.
Thank you.
I just think the SBJ article, or the Forbes article, people read it. It's very informative as well. But go Huskies, and as always, go Gooey Ducks, because I can't wait to hear that.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Rebecca. Great phone call. Thank you. Kirk Richardson, thanks for coming into the house that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kirk Gowdy Avenue. Kirk Richardson says Big 12's initial strategy should be to strike and weaken Pac-12 as soon as possible. Don't try to land schools that have clearly stated they don't want to go to the Big 12. Instead, go after the most vulnerable first. Arizona State and Arizona. A lot of truth to what Kirk just said.
Call from
Lewis.
Lewis, thanks for coming in. The floor is yours, sir.
Good evening. We've had about a day to ruminate on this situation with the news from last night, which I was surprised about, that Texas and Oklahoma are gone when it looked like 5 or 6 days ago they were here till 2025. But I wanted to throw out this question to you, get your thoughts. As I look at Brett Yormark, who has stated as a commissioner that he wants to look out west. This is going back months ago. And then this deal was made to set a precedent and break the grant of rights, which I'm thinking now schools in the ACC, maybe not now, but in a few years from now, we'll look at this as an example of how to break the grant of rights. But it also was a relatively modest sum. $50 million a year for 1 year is, I look at this pretty cheap. I look at West Virginia in 2012, paid $20 million to leave the Big East, which was a conference that was on its way into the toilet at that time. Paid $20 million to leave, and West Virginia is not Texas or Oklahoma. So then you consider inflation and the value of TV deals now compared to where they were 10, 11 years ago. That's a modest sum. And so now Texas and Oklahoma are out. So the way I see it, if Commissioner Yormark does not deliver on some kind of expansion, then the question is why? What was the incentive to leave it out? Was it there? Because the Big 12, I believe, would have gotten money had they stayed a year anyway, maybe not as much, but now schools have lost revenue. So to me, I think Yormark has put his neck on the line a little bit, at least people really paying attention to it closely. And if so, I think there's almost an expectation he has to deliver something. What are your thoughts on that?
First of all, once again, this is a brilliant call by Lewis. You are absolutely right. We're not going to spend any time on this show in this live show in regards to the effect of the ACC Gore, what the ACC schools are thinking over this whole event. We'll get that into another live show down the line. We definitely will in the spring. But you just hit on a great point. We all knew that exit fee was going to be negotiated down, the exit penalty, right? But this is pretty low. Like Lewis says, $50 million each. That's pretty much lower than any other that people were speculating about in the last couple months. So why is that? Why did Brett Yormark sell a little low on this? For me, this guy works on speed, right? He loves the speed. He sees the window. He tries to get through that window before it closes. He did that on the Big 12 negotiations, right? So does he know something? You know, he's had to been in contact with some of these Pac-12 schools. Else he wouldn't be saying all this stuff in public, saying he's going to be aggressive and all this stuff. He wouldn't have tried so hard to get the pro rata clause. So speed, something. He probably thinks, I got this chance. I want to get this deal done now. I think that's what you're alluding to, right, Lewis? Like,
that's what I understand. For legal reasons, people are going to be careful about what they say. All of these discussions that happen between conferences and universities happen through intermediaries. They don't happen directly. The president of the university is not sending an email to this person or that person because that's all subject to open records, at least for public schools. Yeah. Everything happens in back channels.
Yeah.
And so I understand why people aren't going to say anything, but I also think about, I don't know what's going to happen here, but Pitt and Syracuse were all in on the Big East in about early September of 2011 until suddenly they were gone like that, almost in the instant. So you don't know. Now, when I look at the Pac-12, I saw a tweet from Jason Scheer, for what it's worth, setting up like a mid-April time frame for that. I mean, that's the question. How long does Commissioner Kliakoff have to make a deal? I mean, it's not forever because we're talking about the fall of 24. So a deal has to happen pretty quickly within the next 3 or 4 months, you would think, before they'd have to have a deal. And it's really almost pulling a rabbit out of the hat. And that happens in business. It happens in life. You might get a suitor that comes in, might be a non-traditional suitor that'll put a pile of dough on the table and make everybody happy. But it seems like it's almost like he has to pull a rabbit out of the hat because in the time the Pac-12 started negotiating their deal, Yormark got a media deal for the Big 12 and negotiated a deal for Texas and Oklahoma's departure. So he got 2 deals done in the time that Kliakoff has been working on 1 deal.
Yep. Lewis?
So who knows? So I don't know where this goes. I think we do have to wait because I believe that the Pac-12 schools, they do a lot of research. There's a lot that happens academically involving money that we don't see it. Sports fans don't see it.
Yeah.
And so that association, kind of like the ACC. That's why the ACC stuck together. There's a lot of academic kindred thoughts with the ACC schools, and there are a lot of good schools. So that's why it's not going to happen quickly. It may not happen at all. But, boy, there's a lot of smoke, and I think Brett Yormark has, to some degree, thrown his hat over the wall to get a deal done. We will see if it happens. I'm certainly fascinated to see how it works. I think if nothing happens, the Big 12 still has a very good, solid conference going into the future.
Yeah.
But if something does happen, it could be very beneficial for the conference and set a model where we'll have two national conferences. I mean, the Big Ten, the SEC are always going to be at least financially on a different level, but I still think that the schools in the other three conferences can compete on any given Saturday with the schools the top two, and we'll see what happens. But I really appreciate it and look forward to hearing your thoughts.
Thank you, Lewis. Excellent phone call. Just fantastic phone call. Lewis, if you don't call this show again, it is my loss, not yours. Fantastic call. I'll get the comments later on here.
Call from
Ryan Martin.
Ryan Martin is in the house. The floor is yours, sir. What do you got to say?
I just kind of want to piggyback off of what Lewis said, and I tagged you in a tweet earlier today that kind of goes with what I'm about to talk about. And it's a tweet by somebody who kind of delineated the mindset between the Big 12 and the Pac-12 about kind of what everybody's looking at here. The Big 12 has been in survival mode for the last 12 years, ever since the original exodus of Colorado, Mizzou, Nebraska, and Texas A&M, that we've been on the back foot, reactive the entire time. And all of the other schools that aren't OU and Texas have been kind of taking the money that they've been getting and using it to just kind of build their brands. It's not about the money in the pocket. It's about trying to make better facilities and do all of these other things, right?
Yeah.
Brett Yormark comes along, and he has a vision of what the Big 12 could be and how he can sell it. And it's kind of focusing, rather than on luxury things, how much money can I actually get? It's about the shelter, the important things. It doesn't matter. I mean, you hear all the time about how, and this has been a kind of a big talking point that we've seen come out now about why the Pac-12 can't get a media deal done, is because the Big 12, the Big 12 took a lowball offer, and now they can't get what they're actually valued because the Big 12 set the floor for whatever, and blah, 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 or the ceiling. And sure, could the Big 12 have gone and gotten another $4 million, $5 million per year per school if they had waited and gone to the open market? Yeah, probably. But they went for less money for more overall security. And realistically, what did it cost them in the long run? Another $4 million a year over a term of 6 years is what, $24 million? I think that's a pretty easy pill to swallow in the long run, if it guarantees the security and stability of your conference going forward. You have a deal. And even if there's no expansion at the end of all of this, that Brett Yormark fails to entice schools to come over, at the end of the day, we're still secure. And that's something that's insanely valuable to all of the remaining Big 12 schools, as well as the ones that we brought in. And that's another thing too that I think I've seen a lot on Twitter about Pac-12 fans who say, well, why are Big 12 fans mad at the Pac-12? Why you're mad that we didn't kill your conference? That was never the talking point, for one. But for another, you kind of have to look at the timeline, especially since OU and Texas left or announced that they were leaving. It was every man for himself back in 2021. Everybody was looking for a way out until it became fairly obvious our best option was to stick together. Yep. And now we're in it for the long haul. And to the other point that this Twitter thread made earlier that I was talking about, Pac-12 fans and Pac-12 schools and administrators haven't really hit that idea of this isn't about getting the value anymore. This is about survival. It's about, and for some people, it's not going to get to that point, or at least their outlook on the survival is going to be different. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to see essentially an accelerated timeline for the PAC of what the Big 12 has experienced over the last 12 years. It started with USC, UCLA, whether or not, because and that's another piece of history that people don't really know, with the Texas A&M and Mizzou departures in 2012, Texas, OU, Oklahoma State, and Texas Tech. There may have been somebody else in there. Before Texas A&M decided that they were going to go to the SEC, there was a 16 group that was looking to leave the Big 12 and go to the PAC. And it took the agreement to the Longhorn Network and everything by, I think it was Dan Beebe at the time, who was the commissioner of the Big 12 at the time, it took him agreeing to the Longhorn Network to say for Texas to back out. And then once Texas backed out, OU backed out because they didn't want to leave Texas. And the rest of the deal collapsed. And Texas A&M decided to go to the SEC instead of the PAC. But that's another facet to that story. Yep. Anyway, my point being that there's something's going on here. And the sooner fans come to the realization that there are some 80s who are now in survival mode as opposed to, I guess, profit mode, for lack of a better term, yep, the better it's going to be for PAC fans. And that's, I'll get off my soapbox and let you have your space back. I just wanted to chime in on that.
Thank you for the phone call. Appreciate it. Mm-hmm. All right. I just want to hit upon, we're talking about, a lot of people are discussing, and John Wilner discussed it, middle of March. That's the title of this episode, middle of March. Some people are saying April. At this point in time, George Kliavkoff does not own the schedule on this. I'll get to that in a second. I'm sorry. Who's on the line?
It's Moen, Greg.
Moen, the floor is yours. But Moen, can you just hold on a second?
Yeah.
I just want to get this point across. Are you still there, Moen?
Yeah, I'm here. Go ahead, Greg.
Whoever just called, call again when Moen is off the line. We got a lot of phone calls, and that's fantastic. I just want to get this point across because Lewis called. We had another call. The whole scheduling aspect, that the timeline, the middle of April, middle of March, and everything. We said this in December. We said this, of course, in January. But we're saying get the deal done. George Kliavkoff, get the deal done because there's a vacuum. Someone's going to fill it if you don't get this deal done. Speed is of the essence. Well, you know, I don't think George Kliavkoff, I don't think he owns the schedule anymore. I don't. People are saying middle of March and April and stuff. Man, all it takes, you know who owns the scheduling of all this is the top of the domino. It's Oregon, it's Washington. They make the call. They've already made the call to the Big 12, and you know, they own the schedule. I mean, they can step in right now and say, you know, we've seen enough. It's not going to get any better. We've already made this decision, you know, pros and cons of remaining a Pac-12 university versus the exposure of our front porch of our university being with the Big 12 with that much better deal than what we're ever going to get. Maybe it's even worse than we're talking about. Monovision and everybody else in the chat. Maybe the offer is even worse. I mean, look at what Andrew Mashan was talking about in this clip today that we showed at the beginning of the show. I think I'm going to show it again after your phone call, Monovision. But my goodness, I don't think Kliavkoff owns, I don't think he controls the situation anymore. I think he's going to have to get even more lucky as we go on each and every day when they don't get a deal done, because man, it's just leaving an opening for something for one Pac-12 president, athletic director, to distrust the other ones and to make the call and say, your mark, let us in. Monovision, thanks for letting me have the floor. Now the floor is completely yours. Thank you, sir.
All right, Greg. I just wanted to bring up a point. Day-Old Donuts really touched on it, but I think it's important. There's an old saying that Abraham Lincoln loved to quote: "The hen is the smartest animal in the kingdom of animals because she has enough common sense not to cackle until after she's laid the egg." So yeah. I see a lot of grave dancing from the Big 12.
Yeah.
And there was grave dancing before that from the Pac-12 and from other conferences when Oklahoma and Texas left. So I just remind people that, you know, I understand wanting to be a homer, but maybe you need to pull it back and try to be a little nicer to people. It's obviously not a situation the Pac wants to be in. Obviously, those schools and those fan bases don't want to be in the situation they're in now. And the second point I would like to bring up, Greg, and I know I'm going to just say this is me saying it, not Greg reporting it. One of the rumors I heard in the Ohio State circles when Oregon, Washington, and all the negotiations were going on there was a strong vote of sympathy not to kill the Pac-12, or the Pac-10, as it were, among the presidents. A lot of our presidents in the Big Ten come to us by way of the Pac-12.
Yes, sir. Yep.
At Ohio State, you know, Dr. Johnson was a Stanford alum and did research at the University of Colorado Boulder. So, you know, there was a strong sympathy vote that we didn't take anybody, along with the money, to not damage the Pac-10 any further than was already done. The USC-UCLA thing was a situation where if we told them no, they were going to go somewhere else anyway. Whether that's the SEC, probably the SEC. So I know that Notre Dame is the important thing. We shouldn't expand without Notre Dame. But I can't help but feel if there's a situation in the PAC where, say, the Four Corners do decide to bowl, that Kliavkoff can't get them the number. They say, we're going to the Big 12 for stability. Washington, Stanford, Cal, and Oregon are left out there. Oregon maybe not so much because of the academic research, but I could see them possibly getting enough sympathy to add a Washington and a Stanford. Probably Cal not so much because of the situation with the Regents and UCLA, but it's just a possibility that I could see being out there if the rumors are true and that a lot of the presidents had voted no because of not wanting to damage the Pac-10 further. And maybe that could be the key to getting Notre Dame as we had Stanford first. And then we tell Notre Dame, hey, look, we've got Stanford, USC, Washington, Michigan, Purdue, basically all your rivals outside of Navy would be in the Big Ten, and that would be more of a key to getting Notre Dame closer. Obviously, the college football expansion in 2026 is going to be the ultimate key in getting that to happen. But I don't know. I just wanted to throw it out there as a possibility. I don't think there was enough cloak and dagger on the show tonight, so I just want to put it out there.
I understand your whoops. Sorry, wrong one. I understand your logic in that. You know, I don't think it had anything to do. I don't think the Big Ten presidents, the majority of them, expressing how they do not want any further expansion at this time. I don't think that had anything to do with any antitrust issues. Some of it could have been a sympathy situation where they did not want to be seen as the ones who killed off a conference. And what you're saying is logic dictates if the Pac-12's about to get smothered here, is about to be imploded, then maybe the Big Ten will take another look, get a big discount rate from Oregon and Washington or Washington and Stanford, whatever. There's some logic to that. I just can't add any. Unfortunately, I can't add any intel that would point in that direction. But thanks for the comment. Thanks for the phone call, Monavision.
Yep, no problem, Greg. As always, no future big expansion without Notre Dame unless that happens.
And that's okay. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yep, great show, Greg.
Yeah. Cornelius Green is in the house. Thanks again, sir, for coming on in. And he agrees with Monavision. I still think eventually Oregon and Washington joins the Big Ten. I also think Notre Dame makes its mind up and joins the Big Ten as well. Swear Sports. Nice to see you in the house. Appreciate it. TCU and Texas Tech, Baylor and Oklahoma State wanted to go to the Pac-12 after Texas announced leaving as well. USC president shut it down. Yep. Yeah, Pac-12 looked at expansion when we saw what happened to the Big 12, but USC did not. USC did exactly what Texas and Oklahoma did for years in the Big 12. And we talked about it at Flood Empire over and over again. We did not have a YouTube channel. I wish we would have, but we didn't. Oklahoma and Texas did everything they could to keep those exit ramps open. USC did the same thing. It was the same situation and the same motivation. You're absolutely correct, Swear Sports. Now the script has been flipped, and we'll see what happens. Monavision is talking about Miami of Florida as a private school, potential candidate for the Big Ten years down the line. I would agree. I think Miami, Florida is definitely a candidate for the Big Ten years down the line. Curtis disagrees. Miami will not join the Big Ten. It may be possible, but the Big Ten wants Florida State. Florida State is working hard to get AAU. Florida State research is huge. It is growing. Florida State has very bad blood with the SEC, telling the SEC to flood off. Tony, Craig, I need to make a quick buck. What is your Super Bowl prediction? I want to tell Tony, Monavision, and the rest of you in the chat room. 2023, Greg the Cooler becomes Greg the Heater. I'm going to be on fire. Okay? You watch. Stay close, stay tuned. We're going to be doing our predictions in August 31st, Nebraska versus the Gophers. Thursday night, we're going to be having a watch party. Oh, I don't know what the spread's going to be. Maybe Minnesota -2. I don't know. Who knows what they're going to think of Nebraska with all those new players. Take the Gophers right now. Go to the early sports books. Take the Gophers. How about that? Greg the Cooler's going from Greg the Cooler to Greg the Heater in 2023. I can't possibly do worse in 2023 than I did in 2022. It's statistically impossible. My winning percentage after the first 3 weeks of 2022 was something like 22.62%. I was doing so bad that during the season, in my predictions, early on in this YouTube channel, I did a George Costanza opposite week. Everything I thought, every game that I wanted to do against the spread, I went the opposite. And you know what my record was an opposite week? When I took the opposite of what I wanted to do, I was 1-7. So if I would have done what I would wanted to do, I would have broken this stigma of being Greg the Cooler, and I would have went 7-1. But instead, I go 1-7, and my winning percentage even dropped further. But in 2023, it all changes. It all changes. We're gonna get the calculator out. We're gonna rely on some algorithms, some PATC algorithms, and we're gonna have a winning percentage against the spread of about 60%. That's a guarantee from me to you. Greg had one win against the spread in the bowl season. I did? What bowl game was that? Okay, enough about that. Okay, we're talking serious stuff here. This is a serious sports channel. Again, if you are new to our College Football's Peek Around the Corner, we do everything here on this channel. We have fun. We talk serious talk. We do predictions, which are miserable, but we do predictions. I sing songs on this channel. I sing your fight songs. During the season, if you donate to the channel, and if you say your team's going to win in an upset, and they do win, with the donation, I will sing your fight song. We do everything here. Every single thing in college football, and that we do watch parties. We're going to be doing spring games. We're going to be doing spring game watch parties here at Peek Around the Corner. You better believe it, because we take everything serious and everything fun in college football. So if you're new to the channel, please subscribe to it. Smash that like button if you like our content. If you don't like our content, if you do not like the host, if you do not like my singing voice, if you do not like my strange northern Minnesota accent, then don't hit that like button. Don't do anything you don't want to do. And also, share the video with your family and friends. Okay? Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it. Bruce Wallace says, thanks, Bruce, for coming in the house. Appreciate it. SEC probably wants Virginia, North Carolina. I don't see them going out west. Rebecca says SEC probably never goes west unless they decide later value kickoffs they do now. I'm going to go back to Bruce's comment. Yeah, Virginia, North Carolina would be very high value targets for SEC. And everybody knows about it. Everybody knows about it. The question is when. The question is when. And here at Peek Around the Corner, been saying it for years at Flag Empire, grantor rights, they are real, they work, they have teeth. However, we have a story brewing out in the ACC country that we're going to get to sometime in the spring that we have at Peek Around the Corner. So stick with us here, and we'll be able to disclose it at a certain time, a time that I do not know. I'm not in control of it, but we're going to get onto it sometime in the spring, ACC country. Stick with us here at Peek Around the Corner. Bob Husley, in my opinion, SEC doesn't expand unless it's for Notre Dame or the top ACC schools. I agree with Bob. I absolutely agree with Bob. Tony, 1-0 Gophers after one in Madison. Go Gophers, the number one men's hockey team in the country, number one rated. It's time we win another national championship. It's time for the Big Ten Hockey Conference to finally win a national championship. It's embarrassing. Let's go, Gophers. Come on, we're the leaders of the PAC. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. James, nice to see you in the house. Nobody in the Big 12 is going to pay the buyout to leave for the Pac-12. It's more likely the Big 12 adds the Pac-12 schools and incoming Pac-12 schools assist with AAU. Jay doesn't think the PAC is long for this world. Going to streaming only makes sense for a conference that actually expected to be around for a long time. Sadly, the PAC, not long for the world. I want to talk about, again, I was watching a nationally known show. I like it. I was watching it. These guys have all jobs, nationally reported jobs, college football. And they were talking about SMU and San Diego State. Should they even go to the Pac-12 because it's a Power 5 conference, but maybe it won't be in the past. I have to reiterate once again. Again, we peek around the corner. We think there's a slight chance now, and the odds are dropping. We believe the Pac-12 will hold with their 10 schools. However, it's getting close to a pick'em. It's about as close as it can get from our perspective, from who we talk to, and from what we hear. The same thing you guys hear in the public square. Having said that, let's say some dramatic things happen in the next week or so, and there's poaching going on in the Pac-12. I tell you what, I might be the only person that says this here. I might be the only college football YouTube channel that says it, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. The Pac-12 is not disappearing. Not for a few more years, if it does at all, which I don't think it will. But it's not even going to disappear now. Even if it gets shredded, even if the worst case scenario happens, even if Oregon and Washington and 2 Arizona schools go to the Big 12, or what other combination you put up there, the Pac-12 is not going anywhere because these people on the national show, they don't quite get it. What makes a Power 5 conference versus a G5 conference? There's only one real, true differential. And that is how you get paid through the college football playoffs. The Power 5 schools get paid dramatically more than the G5 schools do right now. And this is the last year of the current playoff system. And in 2024, 2025, the money's going to be massive. It's going to blow the doors off. And the Power 5 schools, each one of them are going to get paid dramatically more than the G5. It's already been agreed upon. Ladies and gentlemen, it's already been agreed upon. All that stuff's been agreed upon. Consensus vote. All 10 FBS conferences said yes. All 5 G5, all Power 5, Notre Dame. So it's written. It's written in stone. So and it's one of the reasons why I think the Pac-12 can. We've gone through this before. I don't want to waste your time. But it's one of the reasons why I think Pac-12 can get the skids greased enough to where they can expand, because San Diego State and SMU would have this playoff money that they can disperse as a Power 5 program to the rest of the Pac-12 schools to make them whole. But what I'm saying is, even if the worst outcome happens for the Pac-12 and they get shredded, the remaining schools, whoever they are, let's just throw out speculation. Oregon State, Washington State, Colorado, Utah, those 4 schools. They will stay in the Pac-12. They will rebuild the Pac-12. It will have less media money, less value. They will rebuild the Pac-12, and you know what? They will be a Power 5 conference at least through the 2025 season. Am I the only one that's going to say this? Probably. But I want you to note that. It's written. It's written. The Pac-12 is not going to completely be destroyed. Oregon State, Washington State worst case scenario, are not going to become members of the Mountain West. Mountain West members will become members of the Pac-12. Then in 2026, when everything changes, everything's going to change. The great gold rush of 2026. The differential Power 5, G5, it may not exist anymore, or maybe even bigger. Maybe there's a split. We don't even know who's going to be in the room to vote for what it's going to look like in 2026. I hope I made my point. I might be the only one who thinks this, and that's just how it's going to be.
Call from
Ryan Thomas.
Ryan Thomas is in the house. Thank you, sir, for coming on in. The floor is yours.
Hi, Greg. I just want to, the non-drinking person here just wants to get everyone sloshed by saying cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger.
Cloak and dagger. Got it.
I think it's important to realize Wilner and Canzano are a bit out of touch. And the reason why the Big 12 TV deal was incredibly smart is where it's at on the extension is basically going out from 2024 to 2031. It has the same escalator rate as the current contract. So what that did is that set in stone and basically sent a message to the Big 12 schools is that you are still as valued now, you're even with Texas and Oklahoma leaving. And I think that provided some stability to the league. And that was a very important aspect. And it also, more importantly, locked the members into the conference. They don't, they're not going to have wandering eyes. And, Wilner is only talking to people in the Pac-12 office, and they're only going to feed him positive talking points. And I think Dodd and Marshawn and Brett McMurphy and Pete Thamel and everybody else, they're talking to athletic directors all over the place, and they're getting a more objective view to things. I don't believe anything Panzano says, because when he left or got fired from the Oregonian, however you want to look at that, yep. My understanding is that Oregon cut off a lot of his credentials, and his only contacts are from people within Oregon State and Washington State. Nobody from Washington or Oregon really talks to him. So, I think the interesting thing is Oregon and Washington are the two who are the most quiet. And what we're seeing to learn from realignment, Greg? Those who are most quiet are the ones who are the busiest. And, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But absolutely, your mark should be going after those two if you can get them, because those will bring up the values. Not only will it increase the value of Big 12 schools' payouts from media rights, it'll also increase Oregon and Washington. And if you're Oregon and Washington, you really have to stop and ask yourself this question: if I can get up to 38, 36, 37, $38 million a year by going to the Big 12 and going to Texas and getting games in Texas, more games in SMU, and not taking a dilution, why would I stay in at SMU? I think that's a legitimate question that they're asking, and Yormark, of course, is going to ask them. And when you think about Yormark's goal to make the Big 12, younger and hipper, I don't know it says younger and hipper more than Oregon, and also Washington too. Washington's got a lot of good stuff going on. I love what the coaching staff is doing up there. That they're going to be the Pac-12 champions in my prediction. And Rebecca's Huskies. You're going to be seeing bow down to Washington a lot. And as full disclosure, I was raised in Seattle, so I have a little soft spot in my heart for the Huskies. Mm-hmm. But that's all I've got for tonight. But I think it's important for everybody to realize that although Wilner and Canzano could be good for getting some initial thoughts from the Pac-12 office, I think that there's still some blinders on that they have, and I would tend to believe the words of the nationally recognized reporters who have a little bit more of an objective perspective from this. Mm-hmm. They're not the ones with the syndicated columns or the some of them don't have paywalls. Of course, others do with The Athletic. But for the most part, I mean, that's where this is going. I hope everybody has a good night. Thank you for having me on the show. And we need to get you something for your throat. You've been speaking like a lot for the past couple of days, Greg. So we need to send you some chloroseptic spray or get you some ices.
That's okay, because as you all know at Peek Around the Corner, the PATC community, I have a professional singer's voice, right, guys, gals, right? So yeah, my voice can go on forever, as you guys all know. Thank you for the wonderful phone call. Appreciate it.
Exactly. Thanks, Craig. Have a good night.
Lewis says, my problem with watching NFL on Amazon was it's too much of a hassle to switch to other games during commercials. So I rarely watched unless the game was compelling. Technology will improve over time, hopefully. There are a lot of people talking about Amazon. Amazon rumors have a ton of moving parts aside from the games. There is a serious conflict of reporting going on in regards to Amazon, and we talked about that early in this show. I'm going to put up, I know there's a lot of, let me see if I can find it. I probably can't. Let's just give it a shot. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Just hold on for a moment, because I think the Amazon piece, that's I think that's driving a lot of stuff here. Okay, we'll get back to it.
Call from
Tony, UCFI.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the name on that.
Oh, it's Tony.
Tony.
Yeah, UCFI.
Okay, the floor is yours.
Hey, yeah, I just got a quick question. I called in yesterday, and now that I've looked into this a little bit more, one of the big things that everyone's talking about is, the whole streaming side with the Pac-12 on a deal. But from what it sounds like, my question is, if you're Amazon, because I have buddies that personally work in the industry right now within tech companies, they're taking a big hit. You got to ask yourself, is there really a streaming company currently right now that's actually willing to risk spending money on a conference like the Pac-12? That's my big question to you, is do you think Amazon is really even there for the Pac-12 right now? Because I know they've sized down and they've fired a large amount of employees right now. And the NFL Prime deal wasn't as great as everyone's seen. It's still a new kind of aspect to them. So are they really willing to pump in a few $100 million for a conference that seems a little uncertain right now?
Great question, Tony. At the start of the show, and because I'm an idiot, I lost the link to it. But if you go back to the start of the show, we played an audio, a clip, two times. Did you? I don't know if you saw it, but it was.
Oh, no, I just got off work. I'm in the military, so,
so
I just got out.
Okay, you can go back and watch the first start of the show. Okay. It was John Oron and Andrew Michon from SBJ, Sports Business Journal. They're the top of the line, the elite of the elite. And Andrew Michon, it was like a 1:34 clip. And he's saying Amazon's really only interested in basically one game, tier one game. They're not in it for the tonnage, and they're not willing to overpay. Yeah. And if all that is true, which is connected to your phone call, right? Mm-hmm. That's what you're laying out.
Right.
Then holy smokes, what is the Pac-12 going to do? Are they going to put just one game on Amazon, the most important game of the week, on Amazon during a Saturday, and then have the rest of their games on ESPN Plus and maybe a Friday night, Saturday night primetime game on ESPN?
Okay, right. So, yeah, I'll take a look at that. And then I have one more follow-up question. I'm not sure if you've addressed this either. It's just a real quick one. I saw a quick little video over at 365. Those guys, they talked to Mac Rhodes, their Baylor AD, and it sounded like he seemed very confident in Yormark's vision, and it sounded like they were kind of on the page of the idea that, hey, step one was getting the TV rights deal right away. Step two was getting OU and Texas out. And then step three, he pretty much left it as like a pretty confident, like, look, we're looking at expansion. So, how likely do you think, if this potentially could happen, like how quick do you think these dominoes could fall? Do you think it happened like in this off season, or do you think this is a, maybe a long-term kind of thing?
No, if it happens quick. It happens in the next 4 weeks. It could happen tomorrow. I mean, was that Rhodes? Was that interview with Rhodes? Was that today, yesterday?
It was today, so it was today. Like right after all that news. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm gonna have to watch it. 365 is awesome.
Right. Yeah, those guys are pretty reputable from what I've seen.
And the way they do their interviews are awesome. The information they get out of their guests is those three guys. They just do an incredible job. I'm going to have to listen to it, 365 Sports, and I'll get back to you on that. But, yeah.
Yeah, because my thinking is, because I could easily see, and I think you guys were alluding to this, the whole cloak and dagger and all that. It makes a lot of sense, being in the media, working in marketing, that Yormark's pushing that $100 million out definitely to flip it. So I could see where you guys are going to that. The reason he's willing to settle is because he's trying to use that money to supplement the $20 million that they have for the pro rata clause, and they're going to strike like right away. So yeah, I see where you guys are headed with that. Yeah. But yeah, that Mac Rhodes interview definitely made it seem a lot more confident that, and with some of these reputable people like Dillinger out there saying, hey, step three, so that's kind of why I was like, hey, if they're looking at this, how quick you think this is going to happen. But it's an interesting point. I definitely think you're right on that. It's probably going to happen in really soon. So
thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Excellent phone call. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Outstanding. Tony says I need a nap after that last cloak and dagger. I know you guys are having fun with it, but I'm being serious. I've learned a lot of things over the years. That whole USC experience. If you check out Flag Empire, the pinned tweet at Flag Empire, you see the Los Angeles Times article written about us breaking that news. The cloak and dagger aspect to it was so big, so dramatic, and I'm just gonna, again, it's happening, okay? Cloak and dagger. It might not result in anything, but it's happening. So that is why we stressed it to the point where people were yelling at me on Twitter. We stressed it that George Kliavkoff had to do the speed thing, man. He had to get a deal done. Again, just like J.D. Wicker, we tell him, San Diego State's athletic director, don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. George Kliavkoff, just get a deal done. I mean, whatever you got to do. And maybe all the roads were closed to him. Maybe they were all closed. Maybe there was nothing that he could get done. But, I think once, again, no intel, complete speculation on my part. But once this whole saga is over, I think we're going to look back and probably come to the results that Kliavkoff had some offer in that exclusive window with Fox Sports and ESPN, some offer, at least with the ESPN portion of it, that he should have taken. He should have taken it. Instead of overvaluing his products, he should have taken the deal. I really think when this is all over and the stories are written by the great story writers of the College Football Reporters, 365 being one of them, they're going to look back and say George Kliavkoff should have taken a deal with ESPN and something, or get the ESPN package done first. Remember, the Big Ten, not in this deal. Well, in this deal as well, but the media deal in 2017, they got the Fox Sports package done first, the half of the package. And at that time, oh boy, I'm going to get the number wrong. I think it was like $17 million per school per year. That was the first half of the package. And ESPN didn't want to come up to that number. And Fox and Big Ten said, okay, well, we're just going to see who else wants the other second half. And then ESPN came at the last moment and grabbed the second half of that package. Not entirely the second half, but Fox Sports got the Big Ten championship games. What I'm saying is maybe Pac-12 should have taken whatever ESPN offered at first, because these offers aren't getting any better. They're not getting any better. And Tony and other people tonight have talked about the obvious shrinking media bubble. Andrew Marchand, John Arron, I believe, spoke to it in the clip earlier in our episode tonight, in our live show tonight. So I think that's the story that's going to be written. Pac-12, George Kliavkoff should have taken an exclusive window, the initial deal that ESPN offered, instead of going to the open market. Back to your comments. Again, phone number 763-260-1333. Excellent phone calls. If you're new, please smash that like button if you like our content. Subscribe to our channel. If you want to donate to the show to help us keep the lights on, hit that $, and I'll be able to get to your comments in the sea of great comments here. I'll be able to get to it as quick as possible. But thank you so much for your contributions for tonight. Thank you again for this crazy, wonderful artist work. This is from Wild Oot, Cloak and Dagger. This is from, okay, I'll get to the phone call here.
Call from
James.
To accept, press.
James is in the house. The floor is yours, James. Thanks for the call.
Hey, Greg, how you doing? First of all, what for the drinkers out there, Cloak and Dagger, and Cloak and Dagger. But I brought this up in your chat a few weeks ago, and you touched on it briefly. But when the Big 12, reportedly signed their deal, it was broken by, the mucky mucks of reporting. But there was no official presser put out by the Big 12, by ESPN, by Fox, like there was for the Big Ten when they signed their deal. What do you think the reason is that there hasn't been official, official presser put out for that?
I don't know. I remember that, and I don't know the answer to that question, but I do agree with you. There wasn't this display of congratulations. And they never really had a press conference. They never really had anything, right?
Yeah.
I agree. I don't know the answer to that question, but a great point that you just made. Once again,
see, my tinfoil hat take is that they have a deal agreed to, whether it be handshake or whatever it is.
Oh, definitely.
But
yep.
Yeah, but Yormark obviously wants that fourth window. Well, why does he want it so badly? What if he gets those Pac-12 schools, that increases the money pot for not only to recruit Pac-12 schools, but also his current schools? And that's just a line of thought I've been thinking about for a long time. Like, why haven't they announced that? And could that be the carrot and the stick to recruit more, recruit whatever schools that may be?
Yeah.
So, I just want to know if you had any other thoughts on why, maybe because it was an extension and not, a brand new deal, but I just found it very interesting.
I don't know. It's interesting, but I can't come up with any. When the Big Ten signed their deal, they had a big old thing about it. They still haven't, they still haven't had that press conference with USC and UCLA. I was told they're going to wait all the way until August 2nd or August 1st of 2024 before they have those big things. Because officially, even though the the bylaws of the Pac-12 ends July 1st. The current media contract that the Pac-12 schools are under end July 1st of 2024. The grant of rights, for whatever reason, or some bylaw penalties or something. If you read the Pac-12 bylaws, it says August 1st or end of July is the last day. So I think they're going to have the press conference for UCLA in August. That's a long way of me saying I have no idea what is holding. I have no idea.
That makes sense why.
I have no idea.
Presser for the USC UCLA. I was just curious.
I have no idea.
With your mark being,
it's a great point, though. I wish I had something.
All right. Well, I just want to ask you if you had anything else on that or any other thoughts, but it's been running through my head, and he's desperate to get that fourth window, and it's why is he so desperate? And the only thing that makes sense to me is there's a lot more money in it for him in his conference, and then maybe that's why they haven't announced the deal yet, because they're waiting to see if that happens. But
possibly
either way, yeah.
All
right, Greg.
Thanks for the phone call. Buddy. Appreciate it, sir. Excellent.
All right, have a good one.
Thank you. Curtis, Greg, since you get paid to sing on the show, you are a pro, bro. Well, I guess I am. I guess I am a pro. Wow. The standards have been lowered. Thanks, Curtis. I appreciate you, sir. The clip, I think Lewis, I think you're talking about the clip that we played earlier today. Yeah. I mean, it's not only what Andrew Marchand said, it's how he looked when he said it. They're getting some information. They're getting the buzz, right? They're getting the smoke, as we call it, and it's not good. Nathan, gun to your head right now. Does Big 12 take at least one PAC school, yes or no? I say no, because we are at minus 103. Those are the odds. The PATC Sportsbook shows it at minus 103. The Pac-12 is still the slight favorite to keep their 10 Pac-12 schools together. It's almost a pick'em. So, Nathan, that's my answer. But, I'm not going to. And the reason I say that is because the ties that bind the Pac-12 schools, they are tight. They are very tight. And for good reason. But I'm not going to sit here and blindly say that is going to overrule everything and all things forever and ever, all man, because my goodness, I've talked about it. This deal that's being put, the potential media deal here is such a high risk deal for the Pac-12 that I'm starting to think that maybe, again, the odds have dropped to minus 103. It's almost a pick'em, and it could tilt towards this weekend a plus 120. That maybe the favorite now becomes the implosion of the Pac-12. We're getting awfully close. But right now, gun to my head, I say no. Big 12 does not take a Pac-12 school. No, on February 10th, I'm still a no. But man, it's getting close, Nathan. Getting close. Gary, are any truth to the rumor that you are in negotiations to sing the halftime show at the Super Bowl with Rihanna? No, I declined. Luke Jackson, you bet, Greg. ESPN was key for PAC as main sports station, working to improve schedules with away games, with more non-league games, with other Pac-5 schools to improve brand and to get early games. I get it. The ESPN did not treat Pac-12 all that well lately either. We talked about the Fox Sports. Herb Street said some stuff that he probably shouldn't have said about Pac-12. But Rebecca says ESPN pulled offer. Rebecca says West Virginia guys think Phillips will be Big Ten commissioner. Rebecca says ESPN has made it up though. Complicated relationship. I just think, and I said it at that time. Take the early deal. Do not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Take the early deal, because especially when the announcement that the Big 12 was going to be able to move up 18 months to negotiate in an exclusive window with ESPN and Fox Sports, which wasn't scheduled until even like a year from now, even till today, a year from now. When that happened, Pac-12 should have done all they could to get a deal done. But they bet on a horse. They bet on the closer. They bet on the future of opening up to open bidders. And right now it's not looking like a good move. I don't know who is going to be Mike K. Flugar for commish, strings attaching. I don't know who's going to be the Big Ten commissioner. Our number one person on the board with Gene Smith, he's been eliminated. He took himself out. We would have Jim Phillips as number one now. We have Mark Silverman as number two. But yeah, there's not going to be, I would be very, very surprised if there's any leaks involving the Big Ten commissioner search that's going on. Very, very surprised. Shocking if something leaked. Remember, Kevin Warren wasn't on anybody's list, nobody's list, when he was announced as the new Big Ten commissioner. I just happen to think the guys that the BTM and associates have talked to, everyone that we've talked to, thinks, and it's been reported, believes that the Big Ten will go with somebody who's a current or former commissioner of a conference or a long tenured athletic director in the Big Ten. So that doesn't leave many, and of course, Mark Silverman, the man who was Mark Silverman was the right-hand man of Jim Delaney. He became the Big Ten Network's president at the time that it was birthed. He did an unbelievable job in a tight and pressured situation. He did such a great job that he became the president, the CEO of Fox Sports. That's Mark Silverman. Monovision, Jack Swarbrick is new Big Ten commissioner. Wouldn't that be something? Holy smokes, that's not going to happen. How about your mark to the Big Ten? That's not going to happen. Not going to happen. Kenneth, I read somewhere that Arizona State said they are not happy and might consider better options. I haven't read that. I know Kenneth, but I think we were the ones that the very next day, Tuesday, January 31st, we had a live show, Kenneth. And for those who are new to the channel, on January 31st, we had a live show that basically we had a nugget of intel that said to us that Arizona State, somebody in the leadership of Arizona State expressed in that meeting, and that meeting was located at Arizona State University, that they expressed displeasure at the process of what was happening in the media negotiations, and they expressed their displeasure towards the commissioner and the three people sitting on somebody sitting on the executive committee, which is either Washington State, Washington, or Stanford's president. So we put that out there on January 31st, and we put it out there. We don't know if it meant anything. We still don't know if it meant anything. We don't know if it's a little thing or a big thing or nothing at all. But we wanted this intel was so solid that we figured we'd put it out there just in case if anything else was dropped from anybody else. Maybe that was something we could connect with another dot. Nothing really else was leaked. We put that intel out there. And now since that January 31st, again, we haven't heard anything from Arizona State athletic director, president, no rah-rah speeches about the Pac-12. We have heard some rah-rah from Arizona athletic director, from Colorado's athletic director, from Utah athletic director, but we haven't heard anything from Arizona State. And we had I'm going to post it. I'm going to go find it here. I apologize if I don't get the right thing up here right away. I don't have this. Give me a moment here. Is this the right? Huh. So here's part of the article from The Athletic that we posted yesterday. 3 people with knowledge of the discussion said Commissioner George Kliavkoff is struggling to find partners willing to pay close to what the league is seeking. 2 of those sources said Kliavkoff overpromised his members on how many bidders there would be and what dollar amount they could command. A target north of $40 million per school, according to the one league athletic director. Today, it's uncertain whether the Pac-12 will even be able to exceed the $31.6 million average. The Big 12 reportedly landed in a 6-year extension with ESPN and Fox it reached last fall. We don't have a deal because it hasn't been good, said athletic director. We talked about this last night. There's an athletic director that's leaking some negative stuff to the Athletic. There's at least 2 other people with knowledge of discussions said that George Kliavkoff is struggling to find the partners. Now, we don't know. I don't know if obviously I do not know. We'll never know if one of those sources was somebody in the leadership position at Arizona State. But again, this is my speculation, that none of those sources that gave some pretty negative intel to the Athletic. I don't think it was probably the Colorado's athletic director. I don't think it was Colorado's athletic director. I don't think it was Arizona athletic director. I don't think it was Utah's athletic director. I don't think it was Washington's athletic director, Washington president. I don't think it's part of the executive committee. I don't think it was Stanford's athletic director. I don't think it was Washington State's athletic director. I definitely don't think it was Oregon State's athletic director. They're not going to say anything negative about it. So how many athletic directors have I gone through already? There's only a few left. Is there any left? You see where I'm going with this? See where I'm going? One athletic director and a couple other sources giving some pretty tough to take intel, some negative stuff to the Athletic. I don't know. I would put my chips, push them in the table on the square that said the Athletic possibly, I'm just going to be blunt, I'm going to put my chips in the square that says Arizona State and leave it as that. But I do not know. I am saying, what do I have to say? Allegedly, I do not know for sure. But that's where I'd put my chips. I hope that answers your question, Kenneth, your comment. I'm the only one out there saying it. We shall see. Grateful Trojan, nice to see you in the house. Mr. USC, the most likely ADs to have said something negative would be Arizona State, Oregon, and Washington. And I just don't think Washington's athletic director would say anything when the Washington's president is part of the executive committee. So, Oregon, okay, but even Oregon, what's his name? What's Oregon's athletic director's name? Boy, I'm having the former West Virginia, long time athletic director from Oregon. Give me the name, somebody. Give me the name. Whatever. I don't think, Mullins. God, Rob Mullins. Holy cow. Thank you, Cornelius. Thank you, Aloha Nate, Monovision. Holy cow, am I losing it? Rob Mullins. Don't think I wouldn't put my chips on Mullins either. Don't think he would do that. He's been in the game too long. I don't think he would do that. I could be wrong. It's just my speculation. But he's the intel we received on Arizona State and you see what's going on. They haven't spoken. The other ones have. Some have rah. I don't know. Jeff Watson. Brett just showed Washington and Oregon that if they come for more money and exposure, their exit fee would be $50 million. That's a good point. That's an interesting point, Mr. Watson. What you're saying is, and tell me if I'm wrong, in 6 years. In other words, if Washington and Oregon came in, the unspoken word is, since we let Oregon and Oklahoma and Texas out for $50 million, you could be out for $50 million regardless of the grant of rights. Interesting thought. Mr. Watson coming in with an interesting thought. Yes, it can be negotiated down, Jeff. I think I know where Mr. Watson's going with this. Very interesting. West Virginia guys telling me to check my Twitter DM. Give me a moment. Whoops. Okay. West Virginia guy. So you're okay. So you're talking about the outkick.com article. I don't know where the Arizona 247 person got his information. I do not speak to him. If he's free to tweet me or whatever, but so I don't know what to think of that. But thank you for that DM. I'll take another look at it because that's where the Outkick is getting their information from. I don't know if it's something he's seen me say or talk about on this YouTube, or if he's got another source than what we got. And if that's the case, then there's a whole lot of smoke to that Arizona State stuff happening. But we shall see. Again, we just had, it might mean the intel that we got, Arizona State showing displeasure. They definitely did. It might not mean anything in the long run or the short run. They might just be disgruntled, but they have no vision of moving away from the Pac-12. That could be the truth as well. We just put it out there as a data point. And again, since then, that was January 31st, 11 days ago, no rah-rah stuff from Arizona State, even though we've heard rah-rah stuff from the other 3-4 corner schools since January 31st. Mark Coyle, Minnesota athletic director for the new Big Ten commissioner. No. Peek around the corner. Mark Coyle is an excellent athletic director. Excellent athletic director. He was for Syracuse. He is for the Minnesota Golden Gophers. But no, I love you, Coyle, but no, he's not a good enough communicator. He just isn't. The commissioner has to have skills. He has to be able to talk within small groups. He has to be able to talk and sell his vision in big groups, and that's where Mark Coyle cannot do the job. I love him. Athletic directors, stay here forever until you retire, but Mark Coyle is a no for the Big Ten commissioner in my opinion here at Peek Around the Corner. Gary, who's the basketball team you were hitting at last night that might join the Big Ten? I still don't have an answer for you, Gary. Still don't have an answer for you. We actually had a couple of discussions about that today. We'll keep working at it, Gary, but we do not have... I don't want to muddy the waters. I don't want to say something as speculation even on that question. But we'll get back to that, Gary. Appreciate the question. Timothy H., Pac-12 schools aren't going anywhere. They look down on the Big 12 schools. If Pac-12 schools aren't going anywhere, it's because they are tied together because of their commonality. Big, great, large research universities, the engines of this. One big part of the American economy is those Pac-12 schools out in the West Coast. I don't know if they look down on Big 12 schools, but they do look up to each other. They want to rub elbows with each other. They've been doing it for decades. They want to do it for decades. It's the one thing holding that conference together right now. But Timothy H. here at Peek Around the Corner, we're not going to pretend that there isn't trouble in Pac-12 land. Not going to do that because there is. We've been saying it since day one. There's been issues. There's been issues. Brett Yormark caused them. Larry Scott caused them. George Kliavkoff has shot himself in the foot a few times. And then there's things that they haven't been able to control. The economy and such things like that have hurt them. They couldn't control the fact that the Big Ten poached them. And they had no clue that they were going to get poached. Even though we at Peek Around the Corner sent information to Pac-12 writers and they just ignored us through April, May, June. The information was in their hands and they didn't care to look at it. Or they looked at it and said, this Gray guy's an idiot. Cornelius Green. Pac-12 has very little leverage, no matter what Wilner, Kazano, and Otmore say. Okay. Pac-12, those universities want to stay together, and they're going to do everything possible that they can to stay together. That's why they're still minus 103, the slight favorite, just above a pick'em. Just above a pick'em. At any point, do Big Ten presidents change course and go shopping down the clearance aisle for a steal of a deal? At this point, I'm going to say no. Could that change? Yes, but I think it's a no for right now, still today. Is there some cloak and dagger stuff going on? If there is, we do not know about it. But I still think it's a no. And Craig Kirsch says the Pac-12 schools should be terrified of streaming. I know I would be. I would be, especially, I mean, when we say streaming, I'm talking about putting your top game on a Saturday on Amazon Prime. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I would be absolutely terrified here in 2024, 25, 26. Timothy H. Kliakoff has not been good, but Yormark got a bad deal, letting Texas and Oklahoma leave early for less than the exit fee. Timothy H., I understand your comment. I understand it. We had a beautiful call from Lewis earlier. You know what? First of all, that exit fee was always going to be negotiated downward some. That's the history of that. Of exit fees being about 60%. Being negotiated downward. But also, Timothy H., we're going to have to just pause and just see if that, you might be right at the end of the day. But maybe Yormark saw something happening. Maybe he got a phone call. Maybe he got a phone call from a Pac-12 athletic director, president. Something happened to where, okay, let's get this deal done. Let's get this deal done because I've got a window of time. I'm going to thread the needle. I have an opportunity. I'm going to jump through that hoop. Let's get this deal done. He's talking to Fox Sports. Come on, Fox. Please take the $20 million. Please do this and this and this because you know Fox Sports, I've got something humming with an Oregon or a Washington or an Arizona State. Right? I love that Lewis phone call because I think that possibly could be why he took less than we all anticipated. That little bit less. Yormark, he's trying to... Okay, let's be blunt. I think a lot of us think that maybe right now as we sit here at Peek Around the Corner at February 10th, 9:43 Eastern Time, 8:43 Central, 6:43 Pacific, that maybe we're this close from Yormark closing on another deal. Closing on another deal. And it's not like he hasn't done this before in his short tenure as Big 12 commissioner. He rushed, he got in, he scheduled his exclusive window negotiations with his current media partners, ESPN and Fox. And then when he did that, he rushed to get a deal done, and he got a deal done. Like, it didn't take long at all. And now he quickly, it looks like the deal was shut off. It looked like Oklahoma and Texas weren't going to be leaving a year early. The great Pete Thamel, great reporter Pete Thamel of ESPN says, whoa, it looks like it's going to be unlikely that they're going to get it done. But maybe somewhere, somehow, somebody who leaked this information to The Athletic, that things are not going so good in the Pac-12. Maybe someone who leaked something to John Oran and Andrew Marchand, things aren't going so well. That person or those people representing some school made a phone call to Yormark and said, we want in. And Yormark says, holy cow, I'm going to cut a deal. By the way, Fox Sports, you're going to be interested in this. Help us. Let's get this deal done. Maybe all that happened. Because you know what? Here at Peek Around the Corner, the one thing that we believe in Cloak and Dagger, Cloak and Dagger, Cloak and Dagger. And on that note, we're going to close it up for tonight. We've been on the air for 2 hours and 45 minutes. Last night we were on the air for about over 3 hours. So I want to thank you all for coming into the chat room. I want to thank you for your donations. Before you leave, please subscribe to our channel. Smash that like button if you like this content. If you did not, if this was horrible for you, please don't hit that like button. But if you liked it, please smash it and then share the video with your family and friends. Share it on your social media. This is Peek Around the Corner. We cover everything in college football because we love it all. And if you love it, if you really, really love it, if you need that extra content to get you through the offseason going into 2023, please subscribe to our channel. Now, when are we going live next? Probably pretty soon. Things are hot. Thank you, Cornelius. I appreciate you, good sir, Mr. Green. Luis Carlos Diaz, hit that like button. Stick with us here at Peek Around the Corner. Until next time, from all of us here at PATC to all of you, please, you all take good care of each other. Thank you so very much.